I'm back. Chapter 15, in which a truth is told and a promise is made. The only light in the room came from candles. The curtains were drawn, locking the outside world away and making the inside world feel very small and very warm. Ravini stood in the middle of the room, sweating and nauseated. There were 6 other people inside, but Ravini felt completely alone. Virginia stood beside him. She was staring at the floor with big eyes and a worried mouth, her hands clasped tight in front of her. Tristan stood before them, leaning against the fireplace mantel, arms crossed and face stern. The other children, the vagabonds, Ravini supposed, were in a loose circle around them. All of them, except for Beth, were who they could hear walking around the house, latching windows and locking doors. She closed each latch and locked 3 times, and the click, click, clicks echoed through the waiting stillness of the house. When the last lock was in place, she joined them in the living room. She took a spot next to Tristan. Her face wasn't as cold or angry as his was, but it was every bit as serious. When Tristan spoke, Ravini was surprised that his voice was soft, not seething. "He is not one of us," he said, tilting his chin at Ravini. "He is an outsider." He worked his jaw from side to side, eyes circling the room. Virginia spoke him in. One of the children gasped. Another muttered something. Colt blew out a breath and shook his head. "Does this mean we have to move again?" Winnie asked. "We just got here." I like it here," Benjamin said, and his voice cracked a little. "We gotta leave already?" "I don't know yet," Tristan said. "That depends." "On what?" Colt asked. Tristan's eyes cut to Ravini. "On him." Ravini squirmed, tried to swallow, but it was no use. His throat was dry as salt. Tristan stepped toward him, lowered his head to look right into Ravini's eyes, his own sparkling blackly. "You're in on the secret now. A big secret. Bigger than anything you've ever had to carry before." His voice wasn't angry. It mostly just sounded tired. "It's our secret, but now you've got it. We're at your mercy, kid. You can help us, or you can ruin everything." "How much does he know?" Beth asked. "Just about everything. He knows we're by ourselves. He knows our names aren't real, and he knows our real names." He paused, chewed his lip. "He knows we're the vagabonds?" Another ripple murmured through the crowd. Not a happy ripple either. "Darn it, Virginia," Colt spat out. "I'm sorry," she said, quick and quiet. "I just—" "Leave her alone," Tristan interrupted. His voice was still low, but still somehow hard. "It happened. She trusted him. Now we just have to see if he deserves it." Ravini could feel all their eyes on him. They were scared. Ravini knew what that felt like. He looked at Virginia. She was looking back, eyes pleading quietly. She pressed her lips together and gave him a small nod. I won't tell," he said, but he knew it was too soft, his voice too timid, so he said it again louder, and he said it right into Tristan's unblinking eyes. "I won't tell." Virginia slipped her hand into his, and she squeezed, but Tristan shook his head. "That's easy to say, here, now, with all of us around. It gets a lot harder when you walk out that door. You gotta be with us for keeps, so that it's not just you keeping our secret, it's gotta be your secret too." "Okay," Ravini said, but he must have said it too quick, too easy. Tristan's jaw tightened. "This is not a game, Ravini. This is our family at stake. We're not looking for you to just agree. We need you to understand." He clasped his hands behind his back. "So ask. Ask us anything. We'll tell you the truth, so you'll know, so you'll be part of it. Ask." Ravini bit his tongue. There was so much to ask. His voice dried up inside of him. But then Virginia squeezed his hand again. "I'm here," he nodded. "How long have you been living like this?" "We all became vagabonds at different times," Tristan said. "I've been one for 10 years. Annabelle joined just last year. But there were other vagabonds before us, long before. There have been vagabonds for over 100 years. How do you know that?" "It's in the always and forever." "We'll get to that later. Next question." Okay, if there were other vagabonds before you, where are they? Where are the grown-up ones? They leave, Beth said. It's one of our rules. When a vagabond turns 18, they gotta leave and find their own way. And you never see them again? Tristan shrugged. Sometimes they visit, help out. There's a vagabonds living all over. They're teachers, carpenters, truck drivers. Charlotte's a doctor, Annabelle chipped in. That's right, Tristan nodded. She was shepherd when I joined. That means she was the oldest, like I am now. Left about 9 years ago, but she checks in from time to time. Ravini's trembling was fading, replaced by wonder. The questions were flying fast into Ravini's mind. How do you pay for food, your house and stuff? Old vagabonds, mostly, they send money when they can. Some can only send a little, some more, but they all send something, and we all do what we can. Get jobs if we're old enough, babysitting and lawn mowing and stuff for the younger ones. But with so much mouths to feed, we never have much. Ravini nodded to himself, thinking of Virginia and Colt always wearing the same threadbare clothes. Where did you all come from, though? Did you all run away from home? Where are your parents? We have our own story before the vagabonds. We each have our own story before the vagabonds. Some of us, our parents died. Tristan's voice broke off for a moment. Ravini saw a few heads drop around him. Some of them abandoned us on orphanage or firehouse or police station doorsteps. Some of us have no idea how or why we ended up alone. But all that matters is that we're not alone anymore. Our grown-ups, for whatever reason, could not take care of us, so now we take care of ourselves, and we take care of each other. But this isn't allowed, is it, to just live like this with no grown-ups? Tristan's face darkened. No, it's not, and that's why we have to hide. Always, because there are people who are looking for us. Wolves. That's what we call them. Wolves with badges. Wolves with handcuffs. Wolves with custody papers and court orders. And other wolves, too, who aren't looking for us. Wolves who smile. Wolves who care. But when they find out about us, they want to turn us in. Send us back to the orphanages. What? Ravini stopped his questions. He knew it might sound cold coming from him, a boy with a mother and a father and a warm bed. But Tristan had said to ask anything, so he did. What's so bad about that? Why not just live in an orphanage? Are they that bad? Tristan, to his relief, didn't seem offended by the question. Not all of them. They were horrible when the vagabonds first started, or could be. They're better now, most of them, but they're still not a home. They're not a family. We chose to become vagabonds because we wanted to be part of something better. We love each other. His voice shook for a moment. Beth reached out and put a hand on his shoulder. He nodded at her, sniffed, and then kept going. We're a family. We're vagabonds. Tristan cleared his throat. His voice got steady and resolute again. So we always got to be ready. We can't wait until someone catches on or catches up. If the wolves show up, it's already too late. When a wolf comes knocking, we got to make sure they're knocking at the door of an empty house. Ravini looked around at the pale faces of the vagabonds. Some were holding hands. None were smiling. They looked a little sad and a little scared, but also a lot determined. They were teary cheeks, but there was also stubborn mouths and fierce eyes and set jaws. He understood Tristan then, how he'd acted since that very first night. The hard glares, the caution, the rules, and the cold words and the warnings. He wasn't being cruel, he was taking care. And as he stood there in the flickering candlelight, Ravini didn't feel scared of him. He felt sorry for him. Ravini couldn't even keep his one little soul safe. Sometimes Tristan was trying to protect 7. Any more questions? Ravini thought. He thought about Virginia sneaking out to play in graveyards, and Colt laughing muddy in the creek, Annabelle giggling in the grass. He thought about hide and seek in the moonlight with a truck full of children. He thought about living in a house with 6 other souls, each one looking out for you. And he thought of his own lonely life. One more, he said. Is it fun? Tristan's eyebrows went up. It was clearly not a question he'd been expecting. It's Hard, he said. It's scary, Annabelle added. It's exhausting, Beth said. But Tristan stopped short. Then, to Ravini's surprise, he grinned. Well, kind of grinned. It was distinctively Tristan's sort of smile. Half of his mouth went up, showing his teeth, and a dimple popped into his cheek. Yeah, it is kind of fun sometimes. Beth pursed her lips and nodded. Ah, heck, it's way fun, Colt said. I mean, we're not running for our lives. When we're not running for our lives. I read a book once, Winnie jumped in, and the girl in the book had a slumber party with all her best friends. Being a ragabound is kind of like that all the time, except there's also police chasing you. Yeah, Benjamin agreed. And there's not enough food, but also no bedtime. There's no mother to tuck you in, Virginia said in her soft voice, and the room quieted. But you never wake up alone. Ravini looked into Virginia's eyes. He squeezed her hand. He remembered what she'd told him the night in the woods. So it's terrible, he said, and it's wonderful, both. She smiled, mostly with her eyes. Exactly. So, Tristan said, stepping forward again, can we trust you to keep the secret? Are you with us? Ravini nodded. Yes, you can trust me. Promise, then. Say it loud. Do you promise on everything, always and forever? Ravini looked at Virginia into her waiting eyes. They were reaching out to him, those eyes. He nodded, and she nodded back. Sometimes when two souls leap, they catch each other. Yes, he said, turning back to Tristan. I promise I'll keep your secret always and forever. He said it like it was true, because he was sure that it was. Tristan looked to Virginia. It's true, she said, with a little nod. Tristan licked his lips. All right, he looked to Beth and then to Colt. Get the book. Come back for chapter 16.